Did she just put it up?
Bonjour à tous et bienvenue aujourd'hui pour la réunion. Avant de commencer, on va juste revoir quelques détails concernant le déroulement. Il s'agit d'une réunion hybride, donc on a des participants en salle ainsi qu'en ligne. Donc pour ceux qui nous suivent en ligne, veuillez soumettre vos questions et vos commentaires dans la section chat. Nous avons aussi aujourd'hui la chance d'accueillir M. Charles Lepoutre, qui est un évaluateur accrédité qui a partagé avec nous son expertise sur le processus d'évaluation. Veuillez noter que M. Lepoutre ne pourra pas répondre à des questions spécifiques concernant vos évaluations, mais il est ici vraiment pour nous donner des informations générales sur le processus d'évaluation et ainsi de suite. Donc, on vous demande de garder aussi vos questions et vos commentaires pour les sections spécifiques là, durant la réunion accordée pour ça. Donc, merci à tous d'être présents, puis nous allons commencer. Hi everyone and welcome to today's meeting. Before we begin, let's go over some procedural details. This is a hybrid meeting, both in-person and virtual participation. For those of us, you joining online, please submit your question and comments through the chat function. We are fortunate today to have Mr. Charles Lepoutre, accredited evaluator with us. He will be sharing his expertise. However, he will not be able to give you guys all an individual assessment of your own properties. He's really here to give us the outline of the whole evaluation process and his thoughts on the comparative factor. So we will be addressing the question in the specific question period on the agenda. And we kindly ask you just to save your question and comments for those question and answer question session. So thank you all for being here, and let's start. I would like to welcome our mayor to say a few words.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this important public information session and adopting of the 2025 budget. As your mayor, I'm proud to say that our community has been working hard this year to address the problem with the evaluation system. We understand how value issue is in our residents and direct impact on our community and its future. Today we share the progress we've made, the steps we are taking, and the expertise we have brought together to ensure fair and assessment value for all. Thank you.
Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning everyone. Pour ceux qui ne me connaissent pas, mon nom est Guy Bergeron, je suis conseiller ici à Alleyn-Cawood et aussi un membre du groupe de travail pour l'évaluation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Guy Bergeron, one of the Alleyn-Cawood's councillors and also a member of the Evaluation Task Force. Okay. Je ferai une courte présentation en français et je passerai ensuite en revue l'ordre du jour avec vous. Okay, I will do a short presentation in French, and then I'll go through the agenda with you. Okay, je veux vous souhaiter la bienvenue et merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui pour cette importante séance d'information publique et l'adoption du budget municipal 2025. En tant que conseiller et membre du groupe de travail sur l'évaluation, je suis fier de souligner que notre communauté a travaillé très fort cette année pour s'attaquer aux problèmes liés au système d'évaluation. Nous comprenons à quel point cette question est essentielle pour nos résidents, car elle a un impact direct sur notre communauté et son avenir. Aujourd'hui, nous partagerons les progrès que nous avons réalisés, les étapes que nous entreprenons et l'expertise que nous avons mobilisée pour garantir des évaluations justes et précises pour tous. Et voici le déroulement de l'agenda. Here's what's on the agenda for today. Numéro 1, présentation de la premieresse Sydney Squitty sur les actions prises par la municipalité. Number 1, presentation by Pro Mayor Sydney Squitty on the different actions taken by the municipality. Numéro 2, présentation de la présidente du groupe de travail sur l'évaluation, Angela Giroux. Presentation by the task force chair, Angela Giroux. Number 3, présentation et période de questions par notre expert, M. Charles Lepoutre, membre des évaluateurs agréés du Québec. Presentation and question period by our expert, Mr. Charles Lepoutre, member of Chartered Appraisers of Québec. Numéro 4, présentation et adoption du budget municipal 2025. Number 4, presentation and adoption of the 2025 municipal budget. And finally, the question period, la période de questions. Encore, nous vous prions de bien vouloir garder vos questions pour les périodes de questions désignées. Again, we kindly ask that you save your questions for the designated question periods. Alors, commençons. So let's begin. Je cède maintenant la parole à notre pro-mairesse, Sydney Squitty, qui nous partagera quelques informations. Now I'd like to let Pro-Mayor Sydney Squitty share some information with you.
Bonjour à tous. Merci de vous être rejoints à nous, ce soir en personne ou virtuellement. Cette année, nous avons constaté de préoccupations importantes de la part des résidents concernant le processus d'évaluation. En particulier, le facture comparatif de 3.7. Ce facture a été une chou pour nous tous. Cependant, avec les données réelles en main, nous pouvons clairement constater que beaucoup de nos évaluations n'ont pas augmenté de 3,7 ou 370 %. Cette divergence prouve que le système d'évaluation est désuet et inexact. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us both in person and virtually. This year, we have seen significant concerns from residents regarding the evaluation process, particularly the comparative factor of 3.7. This factor was shocking to all of us. However, with the real data now in hand, we can clearly see that many of our evaluations did not increase by 3.7 or 370%. This discrepancy proves the evaluation system is outdated and inaccurate. I personally raised this issue with the warden of the MRC Pontiac during the last mayor's meeting. Unfortunately, my question was deferred with a not tonight. I understand why. The problem is bigger than our municipality and bigger than the MRC Pontiac. This is why we have taken the issue to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MEMASH, and are actively lobbying for change. I personally have met with Bignard Sauvigny of MEMASH, as well as Simon Hoy of the Union of Quebec Municipalities, to discuss this very important issue. I can confidently say that we have heard the concerns of the ratepayers, and I personally have done everything in my power to address them from the start. Council has shown our commitment to addressing the issue, and here are a few key actions we have taken so far. In May of 2024, we created the task force. We established a dedicated team composed of residents, 2 elected officials, myself and Councillor Bergeron, and our Director General. We are fortunate to have such talented individuals in our municipality, and their contributions have been invaluable. The task force chair will introduce the team shortly. Council resolutions and advocacy. We passed a resolution, to eliminate the comparative factor. This resolution was adopted in July. We sent it to many municipalities across Quebec, and we have received significant support in return. This resolution requests the review of the municipal assessment process and the removal of the comparative factor in years 2 and 3 of the triennial roll. We petitioned the National Assembly in June of 2024, which garnered over 2,900 signatures. Our MP, Andre Fortin, presented our petition to the National Assembly of Quebec in September. We drafted a bylaw to eliminate the comparative factor in August of 2024, and we presented this bylaw to the MRC Pontiac and the Council of Mayors. This bylaw aimed to address the way that municipal shares are calculated. The municipality was erroneously charged $289,000 in 2024 due to the flawed comparative factor, a figure we have since proven to be incorrect. We have requested the recalculation of the municipal shares. Council adopted a resolution in September, which was sent to the MRC. The municipality of Alleyn-Cawood requests that the MRC Pontiac charge us shares of $150,657.96 as opposed to the $289,148. This amount reflects the accurate municipal evaluation rather than the evaluation based on the incorrect, inflated number that was charged. We have not received a response to date from the MRC Council of Mayors. Resolution for the annulment of the 2025 to 2027 triennial roll. At our November meeting, Council unanimously adopted a resolution requesting the annulment of the 2025, 2026, and 2027 triennial roll. This process is in accordance with Article 171 of La Loi sur les fiscalités municipales. We are questioning discrepancies in property evaluation increases ranging from 20% to an astonishing 4,000%. For instance, one property was evaluated at $2,100, but is now evaluated at over $95,000. How does this happen? We are one of the first municipalities in the entire province to request an annulment of our roll. I read this resolution during the last MRC Pontiac Mayor's meeting, and we are wondering if other municipalities also have the same irregularities that we are seeing in our roll. Expert collaboration. We are working closely with Charles Laputte, an accredited evaluator with over 20 years of municipal evaluation experience, including time with the MRC Pontiac. He will be doing a presentation today. Additionally, we've partnered with a law firm in Quebec City that has been providing us with legal advice throughout this process. Raising awareness. We sent a comprehensive document outlining these issues to several key leaders in the provincial government, the Federation of Quebec Municipalities, and the Union of Quebec Municipalities. And we have received positive feedback and have developed a working relationship with both the FQM and the UMQ. Merci pour votre attention. Nous apprécions votre présence aujourd'hui et l'intérêt de vous porter à cette cause. Je vais maintenant inviter Angela Giroux, présidente du groupe de travail sur l'évaluation, à partager certaines des actions et réalisations accomplies par le groupe. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate your presence here today and the interest that you all have in this cause. I will now invite Angela Giroux, Chair of the Evaluation Task Force, to share some actions and accomplishments made by the group.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to keep this very brief because I think that we're all looking forward to Charles's speech and the description of the evaluation process, and everyone wants to get an overview of the budget, so I'll keep this brief. I just want to introduce the task force. So again, as Sydney mentioned earlier, it was created in May of this year, and it's a blend of municipal employees, council, and taxpayers. So we have our Director General, Isabelle Cardinal, we have Councillor Sydney Squiddy, Councillor Guy Bergeron, we have Donna Maxwell, who could not be here today. We We have Maggie Early sitting there. Denise, thank you very much, Renaud. And Julie Vaux, who's unofficially not part of the task force, but has been a tremendous amount of help and very key in a lot of the work that we've been doing. And Yan B, who is maybe attending virtually, he's a CPA that's been part of the team, and he's provided like amazing help to us. So thanks to all of that. But it's been a very good experience and a very good partnership. We have been working really hard for the past few months. There was two things that we wanted to tackle, right? Number one was the evaluation process at the provincial level, and also the process used for the calculation of shares, and we wanted to change both of those things. As well, we're challenging the shares that we were charged by the MRC. We went from $112,000 to $289,000, a difference of $177,000. So when we started this, we thought the most difficult thing would be challenging the evaluation process at the provincial level. It turns out that they're actually really listening to us. They've reviewed our extensive package, and they've actually assigned people to look at it. So we're very hopeful that in 2025, we're going to be able to implement positive change with the provincial government and hopefully eliminate that comparative factor at the provincial level so that these evaluations aren't out of whack the way they are now. The difficult part, which we thought would be the easiest one, is the MRC level. So we said, well, that one is going to be, it's within our grasp, right? It's like one above us. We should be able to implement a change that way. That has not been the case. That's been the most challenging and difficult thing that we have had to do. And I didn't realize till I started attending these MRC meetings, I guess back in June, how difficult that is, because we have not made one step further. We really haven't at that level. With the shares calculation, we haven't made progress. That's not to say that we're not going to stop, because we are, and we're not giving up. We will make change. It just seems to be taking longer, and it's more difficult than we thought. I'm not sure what else to say. The only other thing is I am going to quote Julie Vaux from a letter that she had sent to the equity, and she said, if you had a business and that business made an error and overcharged someone, you would apologize to the customer, you would recalculate that price paid, and you would reimburse them. And that is a given. And if your employee was not willing to do that, maybe you'd fire them, right? But so I'm just comparing that to, we know that we were overcharged for our shares, but the MRC Pontiac is not willing to adjust. So there's the quote. So anyways, I probably talked more than I should have, but I'll introduce Charles, and this should be a very good presentation. Thank you, Charles.
Good morning. My name is Charles Lapoute. I'm a real estate appraiser, and I was a municipal assessor for 30 years in the MRC of Gatineau in Graceville, from 1988 to 2018. Before that, I was the municipal assessor at the MRC of Pontiac, where I started the assessment department way back in 1981 with Cecil Vibert as the ward and Joey Peck as the mayor of Alleyn-Cawood. So the whole entity of the municipal department at the time was created with Jasmine Lemay, Charlie Atkinson, and all those guys. We worked together for 9 years. I left in 1988 and went to Graceville. So municipal assessment is obviously my bag. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I left in 2018 because I disagreed with most of the systems that they have to analyze the role. And that's what we're going to discuss first thing this morning, right? So basically, the roles are a reflection of your values as a property owner. The property values are based on sales. We have no control over the sales. People buy, people sell, people buy, people sell. There's a price established, and at one point, you see a trend. Now, trends are observed by section, by neighborhoods. In other words, in your neck of the woods, Neil Lake is a neighborhood, versus another lake is a neighborhood. Chemin Fair Robin is another neighborhood. And all these are micro markets that have sales. So the municipal assessment basically looks at all these sales, has to kind of cut the whole municipality into neighborhoods and say, well, in this neck of the woods, property values are X. This neck of the woods, properties are valued Y, and so on and so forth. Alors, en français, rapidement, la valeur municipale qui est imposée dans un rôle d'évaluation tient compte du marché, tient compte des ventes. C'est les ventes de propriétés qui établissent la valeur. On n'est pas éclairé par le Saint-Esprit, veut dire, ah, on va mettre une valeur de 100 000, on va mettre une valeur de 150 000. On a l'inventaire de vos propriétés, la grandeur du terrain, la grandeur du bâtiment, l'âge de construction, les rénovations, etc. Et à partir de là, l'évaluation municipale est établie. Bon, alors c'est une valeur dite marchande, entre guillemets. So basically, at the end of the day, once the assessment is done, it's called market value, or real value. So that's the basis of the assessment. And in the 1990s, no, before that, I started in 1974. So from 1974 to 1994, the rolls had to be redone every year. By the time we finished one, we had to restart it right away, because we had to redo it every 12 months. At one point, we said, no way, that's too much, right? So the beginning of discussions in the 1990s were to put them on a 5-year roll, quinquennal. Il regardait à faire des rôles 5 ans. People said, well, that's a little bit too long. Then they finally finalized on 3-year rolls. So once that law was put into effect in the 1990s, we had 3-year rolls to establish. And what we did in our MRC is we made sure that we had blocks that were staggered over 3 years. So the whole MRC was done within 3 years, but in different blocks. So we didn't have to do everybody at the same time. It's too much work. So that's one thing. And then from there, right, with the 3-year roll, they came up with the proportion médiane, the median proportion. And the median proportion is a principle that is basically they wanted to check to see if the assessment was on target with the market. So basically it's very simple. You have 66 sales in Alleyn-Cawood over the last year or two. Take those 66 sales, prices, and then compare them to the assessment that was done by the assessor. Normally, if the work is fresh, it should come up to 100%. In other words, it's sold for $60,000, it was assessed at $59,500. It's sold for $125,000, it's assessed at $127,000. You see how it's close? It comes out to a proportion median of 100%, which is excellent. That way, you can actually feel that the assessment is close to what the market value should be. La proportion médiane, c'est la comparaison des prix versus l'évaluation qui est faite par l'évaluateur l'année 1, first year. Right? It's done on the first year. Excellent, no problem. Now the rolls are 3-year-old. So they go proportion médiane year 1, and we'll see you on year 4, when we redo the roll again. But no. They came up with the proportion médiane year 2 and year 3. Well, everybody said that doesn't make any sense. If the roll is 3 years old, and it started in 2014, we'll see you in 2018. I don't want to know what's going to happen in between. Why do I want to know that? I have my assessment, it's fair. Year 1, it was established at, let's say, at 100%, or 99%, or 101%. Forget about year 2 and year 3. Why do I want to know this? No use to know that. Because, and on top of that, there could be fluctuations. But why did we declare the roll 3 years if we didn't want to palliate to the fluctuations? No. They refactored the variations with a year 2 and a year 3. And that blows up the whole thing. C'est l'année 2 et l'année 3. And Madame Cardinal and her team and the whole team of the evaluation what is it
Task
called?
force.
Task force, absolutely understand this. And they are working so hard, as I am, pushing the same way to abolish year 2 and year 3. By a stroke of a pen, they could do that, because it doesn't affect anybody. If your assessment roll is $100 million for 2 and 3, you'll add on the building permits, you're good. And in year 4, if it's 150 million, well, it's 150 million starting in year 4 for a new 3-year period. Very simple. Why complicate things? So the adverse effect that happened here in Alleyn-Cawood, je vais prendre mes fiches, is this. So we've been working together since the summer, and by the fall, I have prepared 4 types of properties, 2 assessment verifications for each type. This one is Chemin Johnson, and it's a residential loft, right? And it's 9,998 square meters, right? And on year triennal 2022, when it was year 1, l'année 1, it was assessed at 12,600. Based on the assessor and probably the market as of that year, that's correct, right? Now, continue. So in 2022, the proportion médiane was 100%. Of course, excellent, it's fresh out of the grinder machine, it's good. Year 2, it pops down to 87%. Why do I want to know this? I don't. Nobody does, really and truly. And then that's your problem. Year 3, 27%. And we all know where that came from. If you come from Alleyn-Cawood, it's from a new development. Properties were selling at a certain price, and the assessment was way off. Now, for the MRC of Pontiac and the shares and so on and so forth, look at what happens to your shares within the regional MRC. That 27% pops into for year 3. So if you could scroll down, it's a residential lot, right? So if you look at the 377%, and it's pretty low. You see? I assessed it at 37,000. He assessed it now in 2025 at 36,677, so we're roughly the same way. But the uniformisé 2024 is 46,667, so he's off by $10,000 in this particular case. So the 170,000, the 170,000 that you're being overcharged, that's part of it, because there's $10,000 that is really a fluff valuation. It doesn't really exist. That value is not there. We can go down to other properties real quick. Same thing here. The property, 6,391 square meters, was assessed at 6,500. On year 3, it's at 370%. So if we scroll down, you see, I assessed it at 15,000. It's now in the roll at 25,000. And uniformisé was 24,074. Donc, on continue. This will be very, very clear. You see, this house is right here on Harrison Road. Was assessed at 5,000 for the land, 87,600 for the building, 93,000 total. And you have a 27% proportion médiane on year 3. Technically, it's assessed at $344,444. You're looking for your 167,000? That's a big chunk right there. That's one house. Multiply that for all the houses, more or less, and you see the difference is $200,000 tagged on the MRC shares within year 3. That does not exist. That value, that house will never be worth $300,000. If we go, we'll skip the next one because that one was renovated. We go down to the cottages. You see, this cottages is on Chemin Johnson. Juste changer un peu la souris. I can't see. Okay. Chemin Pine Lac Neil, you see? That one was assessed at $145,800 to 2022. With the uniformisé, $540,000. I assessed it, and he's reassessed it at $317 for 2025, and I assessed it at the same date, $311,000. So today, this assessment is good, but on year 3, he was pulling $200,000 towards the MRC chairs. Is that much money? Doesn't work. It does not work. So you understand, that's, in a nutshell, ça c'est votre problème, year 2 and year 3. Year 2 was 87%, so not too bad. But year 3, 27%, that's 37%, that's no. So basically, that's what you're living in with your shares with 2024. Ça, c'est le problème que vous avez dans l'évaluation des quotes-parts que vous devez à la MRC. Vous avez un total imposable qui a dépassé des centaines de millions de dollars. That does not exist. There's over $200 million based on the proportion median of 370%. That does not exist in the road. Just simply does not exist in the road. So that's further down in our report, if I remember correctly. We'll skip the next cottage. You understand the principle. This one had $200,000 tagged to the MRC. So si on descend un petit peu plus loin, I think I should have, well, those are the bush lots. Bush lots are roughly the same. You can go all the way down to the conclusions there, fine. It's pretty white. That's another bush lot.
That one was almost 400,000.
Okay, so that's all the, okay, so in the conclusion of our report that we sent to the minister, is there's over $200 million that is a fluff valuation because of this proportion médiane. Donc le 200 millions de trop, qui est dans le 370% de la proportion médiane de l'année 3. Donc, en faisant la vérification qu'on a fait cet été sur les évaluations, on a fait deux choses. On voit que 2024 n'est pas taxé correctement à cause de la proportion médiane. Puis qu'on voit qu'en 2025, il y a des évaluations qui sont correctes, puis il y a des évaluations qui ne sont pas correctes. Ça, c'est normal. So, it came out two things out of our work that we did over the summer, is that basically the 2024 is absolutely incorrect because of the 370%. And in 2025, the new assessment row, they have some valuations that are correct and some valuations that are incorrect. That's normal. No one's perfect, and when you're doing a whole mass assessment of a lot of valuation units, there is margin of error. So our third part to inquiring about 2025 is to ask l'Union des municipalités, ou la FQM, the FQM, the ones who prepare the assessment, to give us data on how they analyze the sales. What are the neighborhoods that they've determined? Are they logical? Are they correct? Because even on a lake, you take Neil Lake, which is one that I know, the north part and the south part could have different markets for whatever reason. I've seen lakes on the west side, they have road all year round, and on the east side, they have to snowplow their road. The market will react to that on the price. So if you circle around Neil Lake with one neighborhood and one assessment, some are going to be good, some are going to be bad because it's bunching too many units together and they have characteristics that are different. So we're asking the FQM for that type of information so that we can see the source of the neighborhoods they're using for the assessment. Then from there, we'll understand way more what we could do to make it better. C'est avec ces informations-là de votre évaluateur municipal, de la FQM, qu'on va être en mesure de comprendre un peu mieux le système des unités de voisinage qu'il utilise pour déterminer les valeurs par section et par catégorie. So I know that the budget is going to be passed today. you will not see the result of this budget until you get your tax bill, right after Christmas. So obviously, I feel that another meeting should be called in March so that we can see if some assessments can be corrected, right? Now, we will offer our services for that. We'll have a look at them. We already have a database. As you can see, we've done quite a bit of appraisals, of assessments over the summer. We did 8, but the 8 are 4 categories. Residential lots, cottages, residential houses, and bush. So guess what? Alleyn-Cawood has that kind of categories within its territory. So we're spot on our database. So if there are corrections to be made, and we're not saying it's going to be at large, some could come and have that assessment looked at, and we'll have a chart to establish if the assessment is good or if the assessment is not say wrong, but needs to be corrected. I don't like saying wrong, needs to be corrected or re-looked at. So I think you understand a little bit more where everything comes from. So if you have any questions, go ahead. Yo.
So I understand a little better. Cottage lot. What they've done around in our neighborhood of George Lake
Yeah.
is they have determined based on size of the lot
Yeah.
and on whether it's lakefront or not lakefront.
Exactly.
And perhaps even as to whether it's a gentle slope or a steep slope, but that's...
You're going into the micro?
No.
Yeah.
So they have basically assessed lots around the lake for certain parts of it, all at the same value for the land.
Same
And
basis, yeah.
then the cottage is different.
Cottages are more individualized.
Yeah.
Because you have a 2014 cottage versus a 1914
Yeah,
cottage.
exactly.
Obviously,
So
he's
that-
going to
but they
assess them
have
differently.
They have used similar lot values, basically, I think, based on the number of square meters on the lot gives you there's some...
Yeah, it is the ratio basically used by assessors and appraisers, is you have a 3,000 square meter lot, and it's $100 per square meter, so there you go, you have a value. But when I did the assessment in the Upper Gatineau, we had enough data that we used frontage.
So my question is, I didn't quite understand your conclusions about the valuation that's now on GoNet for those properties, as to whether or not that's fair for the land or not fair for the land?
But what we
Based
looked
on
at,
what you concluded.
yeah, we did one on George Lake, maybe we could pull it up. I went a little bit fast, I agree. Where's my George Lake? And we did the George Lake. But to be fair, this cottage that we used, right, is that you?
Non, ben, je suis proche, moi, mais c'est pas bien.
Monsieur Fournier.
It's public information.
Okay.
It's public information, so
Okay,
basically.
correct.
So this cottage has some wear and tear on it.
Yeah.
So you see, as the assessor, and by law, he has to make sure that his inventory is up to date. He has to have a review of each file every 9 years. You see? So when was the last time he went there? It's 2016, it's been a while. See? So that one had some wear and tear on it. So it'll come out a little bit different than the other one on Neil Lake. So it was assessed at 115.9, right? Based on the 27% or the 37% proportion médiane, it was assessed uniformisé for the shares of the MRC in 2024 at $430,000. Way up.
And that's 400.
That's for the 2024, and that's why the shares of the MRC went up $180,000.
Please. Is that what shows up on GoNet?
No.
No. This is my analysis. So look, he deposited the new roll. He deposited the new roll at 212,000. So why are we paying shares to the MRC on 429,000? So we understand that this is no good. This is what the fight is the fight. Because he has established the assessment at 429 based on the proportion médiane year 3. And then he comes around and says, oh no, 2025, it's 212. That's $215,000 that is tagged on to your shares 2024 at the MRC.
But my question was, when you did the independent assessment of that,
I came up at 170,000.
instead of the 220?
Yeah, I see he's a little bit high here, you know why? Because the condition of the building is a little, maybe off. If you go to the one before that, or the Neil Lake one, the Neil Lake one is spot on, absolutely spot on. You see, the 27% turns out to 540,000, which is way too high. And that's why the shares to the MRC are way up. In 2025, he reassessed at 314,500, 215,000. My expertise assessment is 311. He's spot on. He's spot on.
Thank you.
I'm also around George Lake as well, and I guess my question is, like if I look at George Lake as an example, we've got a bunch of different, we have really off the grid, really small, very small properties. We have some, my own, that aren't waterfront. We've got really big, new waterfront cottages. My fear is that when we categorize like on a lake or around a lake, that some of the other properties get lumped in and get these kind of values shot up. So that's one of them.
Yeah.
And the other concern as well is on vacant lots. Like I've seen the values of vacant lots go up quite a bit. There's a number of lots that have been for sale around our lake for a long time, and they haven't really sold, or they've sold close to the market value, and the valuation of the lots are much higher than what's being sold. So that's another concern.
Yep.
Because a lot of us have multiple lots.
Right.
You know, we may have a dwelling or cottage on one lot, but I've seen that.
That's why we asked the FUM no later than last week to give us the neighborhood descriptions around each neighborhood that were the assessment units that we call them. Les unités de voisinage. If we don't have that, we don't know how he's thinking. And I'm not saying that he's wrong and he's incompetent, I'm just saying, how did you determine this unit? And if he's wrong, we'll just show him that, you know, you should have done it this way. And that way, long term, you'll understand more the socioeconomics of Lac Georges. Because Lac Georges is just not one circle. I disagree. Could be 3 circles,
I'm
could
sure
be
it's
4
like that
circles.
elsewhere as well.
Easy, and it could be all over the place. So when I was an assessor, I spent months and months preparing the unité de voisinage, the neighborhoods, to make sure that I understood that the left side is better than the right side, the north side is better than the south side, and the south side has its own neighborhood, because when I have a sale at 174,000 and then 244,000, I understand why. Because the south side doesn't have road all year round. Or it has all the blue algae coming down from north to south on the lake. There you go. I'm sorry.
So, a couple of questions. First of all, when has FQM always been a part of the assessments, or it's just a new?
It's new.
Like
It's new recently, I would say. When did the other company left? The Servitec.
It's been about 3 years, I
3
think.
years.
Yeah, Servitec left 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second question is, it's hard for me to understand how, because I was at the last MRC meeting and they presented their proposed budget, and it seems that the shares value for 2025 is exactly the same amount of money as 2024. So to me, I was surprised, because for what's going on in all of the MRC Pontiac, the valuations or the assessment roll has skyrocketed, and I was assuming they would have this surplus because of the way that it's required for the municipalities to pay based on
Yeah.
the
Standardized value.
yeah,
Standardized
so
value.
what's going on here? Because the
I
new
don't know.
guys, Alleyn-Cawood, and then the only thing they sort of mentioned as they just kind of brushed it off as, oh, it's just the distribution is different. But that does not make any sense to me at all.
It's hard for me to answer that because
Okay.
I don't know the budget for the MRC. But I do have a solution, if I
Yeah.
may, just a quick answer to that.
Okay.
The MRC, when I was in my MRC in Gatineau, we had what we call a row. We started it, it didn't go through for whatever reason, and then I left. The row is the relative overall weight of a municipality within the MRC. And I started explaining that before the meeting. So if we could actually study the municipal assessment of each municipality in the MRC, the infrastructure that is involved per municipality. I'm going to give you an example. Shawville has the hospitals, has all the schools, has a lot of businesses, and put these in columns to assess the overall weight of a municipality.
Yes.
At the end of the row, you'll see that, I'm not saying Shawville is number one, but let's say Shawville is number one, and you would be surprised that Rapide de Joachim is number 5. Why? Because when I leave to do a building permit to Rapide de Joachim, I have to travel 250 kilometers and return. So if you put those weights into an algorithm, and I was mentioning these weights don't change very much unless something really dynamic happened. Let's say Mansfield Pontefract gets a $150 million new industry. Those weights are pretty stable and you can see them and they're logical. So you would have number 1 municipality at the MRC of Pontiac and you would have number 19. And each one would have a percentile. That's it. You're done. You never have to discuss this again. Oh, I have one more coming in. Sorry, Warden.
I have a question for you that if the Federation of Quebec Municipalities have only taken over this role, if you have the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, they're not getting in bed with the government. In a sense, it seems odd to me that an organization that's supposed to lobby on behalf of municipalities for fairness and equity is now part of the evaluation process, so they've become compromised in it. Were they actually giving a list of suggested evaluators that they approved to send out? They did, didn't they?
I wouldn't say so, because, I mean, it would be so wrong.
Well, it was.
and it's verifiable because, like I said in the beginning, sales are representative of the market.
Absolutely.
And if he says, well, the sale was 160,000 and he's putting it at 360,000, then you can put your finger on it and say, why did you do that?
Is there not another problem though? And like, I sold a property during COVID, and my assessment, I just looked at what they got, and they flipped it within a year and got 250,000 more from the house because I saw it as a bad part of COVID. So essentially, when I look at it, their value that they put on the evaluation is less than what I had when I was there, and I made my sale, and there was another $250,000 that went in.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of other anomalies in the system that have not been looked at. There's a lot of under-evaluations from what I see.
So, like, as I was saying, the assessor, by law, has to make sure that his inventory, what he has in his file, is correct. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
That's how it is in computers, right? You put in the garbage, it comes out garbage. So you have to make sure that the assessor and the the MRC's team have the equipment and the team to verify at least 10% of all files every year over 9 years.
What happened when I bought my property, I bought a rundown. I put a couple $100,000 in rentals on it, 12 years ago. And literally it was $60,000 on the assessment. It took a couple of years for it to actually show up. And they sent me a sheet and told me, fill out all the things you've done. They called me back and said, we've never seen anyone fill out. You said everything, like there was nothing left to do. We sat there, I did it. And they were shocked that I did that. But are there not, it seems to me that they've never come to that property.
It's up to the assessor.
Well,
We're member of an order,
and
as Mrs. Cardinal was mentioning, the verification of municipal assessment has dropped near to zero. In my day, every move I did, I had to show the government that I did it right. And my order would come in with the verification team and say, oh yeah, it looks okay. Now there's nothing, sorry. I'll be right.
That's okay. So I have two questions, one about the proportion median and the other about the row. So with the proportion median, for the second and third years, this actually changes the amount people are going to be taxed. Because if the way I think it should work, I agree with you, we don't need that information. have your property evaluated once and then you're fine until year 4.
Yep.
So I agree with that and wondered why we have this proportion median stage for 2 and 3. Was it added recently? Is it for all of Quebec or is it just?
It's all of
developers?
Quebec.
Okay.
And originally, when the rolls were declared 3 years, in the early 1994, roughly, right? It was only year 1. Then 2-3 years, 98, something like that. Somebody woke up in the morning and said, oh, you know, I'll take year 2 and year 3. No. All of the assessors said, no, what are you doing? But they did it anyway.
So I agree with you that that is something we should focus
have to
on.
get it removed.
I agree. Second thing about the row. So I think this makes perfect sense to take all of our municipalities and weight them according to what is in the municipality.
Right.
And so right now you're saying that this is not the case at MRC Pontiac. We are not doing that.
No,
And
yeah.
this could help us with how the shares are properly allocated, because I do agree that in your municipality, there are so many services that you're not receiving, you're not able to because of where you're situated,
Exactly.
and yet there has been this feeling at the MRC, everybody is in it, no one can opt out, and everybody pays for all services.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
So
this
by doing the
weighting
roll-
could maybe correct that.
Yeah, when you're doing the roll, you're factoring so many items that you feel that is part of the MRC budget. Roads, all the length of roads, manufacturing, businesses, institutional, the hospitals, schools. You put all that in, you'll understand that number 1 is heavier than number 19.
Exactly.
And you have 100%. So you have to divide 100% by the 19.
You're paying for what you're receiving.
If you factor
Just
them
like-
into the algorithm, that's what you're gonna get at
Just
the
like
end of the day.
anytime there's a tax increase, you should be asking, well, what new services am I receiving?
Exactly.
But because of the real estate spikes,
Right.
that's taking it into an uncontrollable area.
And once you have the roll in, let's say you reschedule your 3-year rolls into 3 groups instead of 14 and 5, right? The years that these municipalities are being redone, there's an extra charge, right?
Yeah.
You charge it to them.
That's right. And I just wanted to, for your sake and everyone, I want you to know that most of our council, I think all of them, including myself, feel that we should be able to assess all municipalities at the same time.
It's a lot of work.
Yes. Right now, I think it's
14 and 5.
14 and 5, that's right, including the TNO. And the reason we're using FQM is because the private company that we were using, we've had some difficulties. So we brought FQM in actually just as a temporary solution. And one of the most difficult positions to be able to hire for and retain people is an evaluation inspector. And if we could ever, we've even gone to the high schools to try to encourage the kids to, this is an important role, we need you at the MRC.
Sure.
So if we could have stability, because yes, it would be very difficult. FQM thinks it would be too much to do all 18, but we are still asking for that.
Yeah.
We just need the manpower
Technically,
and
it's
power
fun
do
to
it.
have everybody at the same time, but it's very difficult for an assessor to be at all corners of the MRC.
But at least everyone would be affected in the same way. with real
But the
estate.
year, let's say 2025 is the year you do the roll
Yes.
for the MRC. You will take all municipal assessments as they are and make sure that there's maybe some adjustments so that everybody starts in the assessment role on the same foot. After that, it's weighted by hospitals, schools, roads. Those are data that are fixed, they don't move really. So the roll is pretty long. Municipal assessment is the first one, I agree. Then after that, it's all data based on the jurisdiction that you're talking about. Rapide de Chaumarsin is not Alleyn-Cawood. Otter Lake is not Charles. Oui, excuse me.
I understand that if you wanted to have a reassessment, you have to pay a fee.
Yeah.
So it starts at $300?
No, I think it's lower. The MRC has a great rate. That's absolute. I think it's $90.
It was 75, it may be 90.
I think it's $90.
Because some people
Yeah.
fix it. So-
I'm working with the municipality here So if we decide, if the council decides that they want to offer a professional service to the ratepayers, we'll see you in March, and we'll look at your assessment individually, not today, but individually. And then, like I said, with the expertise that I've had doing these assessments and the database that I have from the sales that I got from the municipality, I could say, Neil Lake at 311,000, you're spot on. You can go ahead and contest, but you're going to lose. Whereas the one on George Lake, well, there's $50,000 difference. Do you want to go? If you want to go, go. If you don't want to go, be my guest. You know, keep it the way it is. Yes.
Morning, Christina. I guess another, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly. So in a non-COVID era where, you know, our values are probably pretty spot on, let's say, having that percentage applied over the second year and the third year, like if it's inflation, if it's a small number, in my mind makes maybe a bit of sense. But I guess the anomaly in this case is that some of our properties were undervalued. You had the COVID effect as well, and they sold much more. So if you apply that same, you know, large percentage over years 2 and years 3, that's where it gets way out.
Year 2 and year 3 doesn't make sense. If you say, I'm going to declare the roll 3 years, but I'm going to look at you every year, does that make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me.
I get it.
It doesn't. It's either 3 years or it's not.
But it's even worse with the bigger jumps.
Of course, right? But you don't want to see that jump until year 4.
Of course.
That's where you want to see it. And you adjust the roll, you adjust your mill rate, and everybody has some stability of where we're going.
And I would suspect the reason why it's been done that way is so that municipality doesn't technically, or not municipality, but whoever doesn't lose out on potential increases in between, so that...
Yeah. Well, you know what it's used for, year 2 and year 3? It used to be used for your school taxes.
Yeah.
Remember your school taxes, you assess at 100, and they do the péréquation, and they would use the 37%. No, you have to pay taxes on the 540. And it's used on the mutation tax. When you sell a property, you sell it for 350,000. No. 540. That's what it's used for. No, absolutely no. If you sell a property at 240,000 and it's assessed at 300 in the row, you have to take the highest of the two. So it's 340. Why do I want to put this guy in there? No, I don't want that guy. No, thank you. No. Yes.
There's an unforeseen downside in addition to that. People that are in positions where they're trying to sell their house, if you're stuck with this higher evaluation, people coming in to buy, you're now paying an inflated amount of tax, but more importantly, they've seen these jumps, and it turns off the buyer coming to the Pontiac. So it's got a downstream, it reduces the prices we're going to actually
But just to give you perspective, your 2025 assessment roll is based on July 2023. So that's post 2022, the interest rate is at 7%. You're still with interest rate at 7% in 2023. It's just starting to go down in 2024 until late. So that's the market. You're not in 2022, you're not in 2021 when everything was crazy. So you post that, and that's pretty stable. So normally at 7%, the sales that he used to do your assessment is July 2022, July 2023. The next assessment roll, it says 25, 26, 27, 2028, he's going to use 2026. Who knows? We'll see. So that's how the assessment is done, bumped every 3 years. But get rid of the proportion médiane, year 2 and year 3. They're no good.
This is the same as the comparative factor. We've been talking a lot about the comparative factors. It's the same.
Yes.
Just a question, I'm putting a request from the MRC to have access to the full details of my,
your file.
Yeah, my file. I heard nothing yet. Maybe it's taking you a few days. But anyway, is there a fee, and how easy is it for residents just to get that and then use it and like be able to bring, like have their own access?
I'm not up to date on the access documentation.
Yeah.
In my day, I opened up your file and it's all yours, you can do whatever you want
It's
with it.
there, they have it.
Now, what they've done, again,
Yeah.
I do not understand why, they protect the professional act of the appraiser versus the public information.
Yeah.
So you get half of it.
Because I have a hard time, like, convincing anyone to pay on something that they can't see the actual
No,
breakdown.
he'll show you the size of your lot and the size of your house,
You see-
but not the rate
Yeah,
per square meters for the land, because that's a professional act.
yeah. Well,
Wow.
that
Boy.
that needs
Good
to-
times for the, I never had that, so.
Yeah.
Yes, you imagine that, you know, you're getting a secret increase, you wouldn't take from any business, never mind your own municipality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're forced to pay.
It's quite outstanding. That's
It's
what,
extortion.
all these questions and answers that I'm giving is why I left in 2018, asked my wife, I said, that's it.
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Wait,
It was gonna be a loaded question, but you're waiting on the results from the actual appraisers to kind of measure up to what you currently have done on a few properties. What is the hope, or what is the plan going forward to say, you know, MRC, this is what you did, but this is what we did? What is the after plan with these results?
well, the law states that you have to do a request, a written request. En français, c'est une demande de revision. So a request for a revision of the road. And that has to be done at the MRC level. That's obligation, no questions asked. No question there. What we're doing right now with the municipality is that in the spring, once you receive your tax bill and your assessment, and now it's pretty much official, there's no going back, right? People who think that their assessment is incorrect and should be reviewed, we can help them decide if it's gonna go or not go. See? If the person from the lake came to see me, I would say, well, you're on your own. Because I think it's worth 300,000 and he assessed it at 300,000. So you can do whatever you want. It's your property, but good luck. If it's assessed at 50, or the $2,000 one at 98,000, whatever, then obviously there's something wrong there. Could be. A mistake happens. I mean, it's difficult enough to do appraisals. The assessment of mass appraisal is very difficult also. Very difficult.
Any other questions for Charles?
Yep.
Could our warden, before she leaves, respond to what she's heard today? Does it change her opinion in any way?
I think I've just said it, but I'll say it again.
I don't think you did say it. What did you say?
Oh, well, what I said was that the whole idea of the second and third years being unnecessary information, that is resonating with me, and knowing that that's basically what the comparative factor is. I mean, we've been asked to just completely remove the comparative factor, but when I think about having an assessment done in year one, I think it's very confusing having the second and third years changing.
So you've changed position.
No, I don't vote at the MRC. I'm there chairing the meeting, and I can decide a tie vote. I also have my own opinions. And I hadn't had it expressed this way, but to me, I think Charles has a lot of experience. In fact, I didn't know you had started the assessment department at the MRC Pontiac. And I'm sorry actually that you weren't able to come and speak to our council of mayors, because we were asked, but I think it was kind of within a week before our meeting, and we'd already had 2 presentations by Isabel, and I thought it would be more of the same kind of thing, like an update from you. I didn't know your background. But anyways, now that I'm glad I've come today, so I personally would like to go back and
Have him come and speak to your plenary session, perhaps?
we've had our plenary session this week. We have our council meeting on Wednesday where we're looking at moving our own bylaw with that 50-50, which I think is at least an improvement. But the thing is, nothing is carved in stone, because we can move another bylaw it won't really take effect, this present one, until sort of by 2026. But in 2026, if this is not accomplishing what we had hoped it would, we can move a new bylaw.
Couldn't you table it pending, I think the mayors would really benefit from hearing.
Well, you bring up a good point. You bring up a very good point, Linda. And I think there's two things I've heard today. One was the business of the row, which is how we look at calculating the shares. And I know our budget committee has been looking at that, but I'm not sure, I wasn't at that meeting, whether they have weighted it from 1 to 19 the way you have described, which in my opinion is equity, it's fairness, based on what the services are. So I hope that answers your
So would
question.
you look, you'll be considering then perhaps in your council to table your motion that you have on the table? Why have to do two within a short period of time?
So I know we've tabled it, and usually when you table something, it doesn't get changed by the public vote. But I also know that there was a feeling of that we were being accused of dragging our heels and taking too long and ignoring the situation. So we were trying to move forward with our bylaw in a timely fashion. But then again, there's another feeling that, you know, you have to make sure that you get it right and that it accomplishes what you hope it's going to. So
It's sad though that your staff didn't have the information that this gentleman just gave. That's what your staff is supposed to be able to do, so there was an
you mean our assessment department?
Yes. And you just promoted the individual to being the director, right? So perhaps he'll get more resources.
He's had a difficult job, and he's a hard worker. Anyway, so I don't think this is the...
But the other thing I would add is that the MRC is going to see some stability right now because 14 of your roles have been redeposited.
Exactly.
So technically, the proportion median should be close to 100%.
Yes.
It's just the other 5, where they may have a wacky, wacky number 3, if we call it this way.
And we were able to say, I think to Alleyn-Cawood that we know that for next year, I believe it's 1.0, something like that.
There you go.
So
So you see, if you start working at it, 2026 is your target. Because you really have to look at it. It's a problem that's going to be recurrent forever.
Shell, would you mind sharing your thoughts on the proposed bylaw from the MRC on the 50/50?
Yes, I'd like that.
On the 50/50?
Yeah.
Well, the 50/50 is taking an assessment that is cataloged in the roll and an incorrect factor. So you have 50% wrong, 50% some right. So you're still working with intangibles. Doesn't make sense. When you look at a row, things don't move. The amount of roads and the amount of institutions and the amount of industry per municipality, per capita, that is pretty stable. So the 50%, it's obviously going to cut. Like I said, this year it's not going to be a major thing because 14 of your assessment roles are redone. So 50% of 1% is 100% is going to be nothing.
But we still have this second and third year.
Yeah, for the 5. So those 5 are maybe going to be the next Alleyn-Cawood to the MRC saying, come on, we're increasing by 50,000 or 75,000.
Based on that.
Exactly. So you have 2/3, almost 3/4 of the MRC are going to be pretty stable because of that.
I'm quite shocked by the information that you've provided us today. I know these girls have been working on the whole task force has been working very, very hard for many, many months and basically been shut down at every opportunity while they were trying to explain. And then all of a sudden today, here we are, an expert. I am shocked that our MRC didn't look for that expert opinion on this and rather
Well, every journey starts with the first step.
They were getting the expertise or the expert opinions through the FQM.
Well, that seems to be a conflict of interest then, because the FQM is paid by the MRC.
Well, there's some people there with a lot of experience. It wasn't necessary, yeah, but I see your point.
Excuse me, would you be willing to ask this gentleman to go to one of your meetings, explain this to all the mayors that sit around the table, just not really reacting because they're not really sure what you're supposed to say? Would you be willing to commit that, invite him?
I think it could be very helpful, yes, and we could have
Quite
it come.
dancing around.
But
You know something?
Yes or no?
Yeah, yes, you know,
Yes, will you invite him? Will you
I
commit
don't
to
really,
inviting him?
I don't deserve that criticism. I was just trying to answer your question.
I'm not
My
criticizing.
my answer to you
Yes.
is that I think that the earliest could be January. And whether we vote on this bylaw next Wednesday or not, I can't say today whether, you know, right now it's in the agenda to vote on. However, whether it gets voted on or not, I think we could still benefit because we could now look at this row, the
2026.
proper weighting of municipalities moving forward. And secondly, we can also be better educated on the second and third year information.
If we succeed to get it off the books, then
Yes.
we won't have to talk about this anymore.
So may I ask you this question? I mean, I don't know, you know. If we were to vote on the 50-50, does that tie our hands to remove this second and third
No,
year?
it's, the
Good.
MRC can rule.
So you see, there could still be something
Well, absolutely.
accomplished.
There could be, yes,
Yes.
but if not, are you willing to invite him to attend?
I
one
said
of your
yes in
meetings?
January.
You will?
Yes.
January, perfect.
Would be
Thank
the
you.
earliest.
That would be fine.
I would just like to add, the MRC has demonstrated that they are able to modify agendas
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
and have voted against adding our bylaw to the agenda. So I think it would be wise on the part of the MRC to remove the bylaw vote from the December agenda meeting until there is an opportunity for both sides to be seen, for both bylaws to be compared. I think that's my suggestion of a wise move on the part of the MRC, and that would really show good faith on your part to assisting and helping us fight this issue. I think that would be very, very nice of the MRC to do.
So all I will say is to that, I can't promise you what will happen because, you know, I don't change the agenda alone. It has to be agreed to by the council.
Yes.
But I think it is worth going back and I will do that and
Thank you.
discuss
And
it.
maybe we would
Okay?
appreciate
They
this.
move because people have to pay for something, for someone's mistakes.
Pardon me?
Maybe fees for contested property or abused property should be removed. Because people have to pay for something was done not right, for people, for some, I don't know, they don't have expertise for some reason. And we know it because we send a lot of emails to you with comparable properties with everything and you're doing nothing.
Where do you live? I thought so.
That's a municipal assessment problem, not necessarily the MRC.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And I
not
don't
the
remember
MRC.
receiving, you've been writing, I think, to take care of it.
It's not an MRC problem, it's a municipal assessment problem. It's a one-on-one basis, case by case. Yes.
In response to Warden Colley's comment, that, you know, the MRC took the time to get it right. I sit at that table.
I
as
said we
co-mayor
need to
of
get
Otter
it, take
Lake.
the time to get it right.
And
I didn't say we got it right.
we did not get it right at all, and that's been my argument for the past 3 months on this issue, that this is unfair comparative factor, it just distorts reality. And we, Otter Lake, Robin Zachariah is my colleague here, we put together 2 options for the budget committee to look at, to the finance committee to look at, and it fell on deaf ears around the table, I must say. And, you know,
It's because
we
of
do
the
need to
advice
get it-
that we received.
We've given our comments, we've done the best we can.
Yes, you have.
And we are not going to vote. If this bylaw comes up for vote on Wednesday,
You'll vote
we will be
against it.
voting, absolutely. I've already
I know that.
indicated
I knew
to
that.
my colleagues.
And
Because
we-
it's still 50% wrong, right, Jane? Like the 50-50?
Wrong.
It's based on a flawed factor.
Yeah, thank you. Jennifer, I'm so glad I came this morning because I'm benefiting hugely. It's great, perfect. And Jennifer always spoke out against it as the acting mayor of Otter Lake. And at our recent meeting, which Robin was at, you also did an excellent job making your points known. As you know, though, with a vote, it doesn't have to be unanimous. And And I'm sure Carl will be voting against it as well at this point because of how it stands. So now, anyways, what I'm going to do is after the meeting, have an opportunity to speak to you and have you again, I wrote a few notes, but explain again about the 50-50. And I will speak with our mayors and speak with our staff and see what can be done. Okay?
I have one question to address to Jane again for our shares.
Yes.
It was a complete no when we were at the last MRC meeting with the knowledge that we have today. Are you willing to reconsider? Why would reconsider, and I did not hear from any of the mayors at that particular meeting why the MRC could not reimburse part of the
from the surplus.
From the surplus.
Okay. So I'll just say quickly, we're also going to be approving our budget. At this point, our surplus is 1.3 million. And our auditor thinks that we should always have a minimum of 2 million. So if we were to reimburse you, I guess it would leave us with 900,000. However, one thing that anybody that understands municipal budgets, the whole surplus isn't in yet. And Linda, you'd know about this too from Ottawa. Probably by March, we'll still have received some of the surplus from 2024. So the surplus will grow.
But you've got a problem
And
with the surplus.
it does seem like an easy fix to help you, to give you this difference of about 139,000 or whatever it is. But it's just a question that we have to be prepared. The MRC Pontiac has a particular debt that we're paying off. I guess it was the renovation of their building. And if we needed to all of a sudden have our debt called in, we have to have the money available. It's just the way the auditors advise us. So I'm not sure that is going to be the solution, but I know it's something that you asked for. And I had to say at that point that the council had decided that we would not, because it could be precedent setting, because then if another like, for example, when Chichester had their problem, they didn't have as much of a problem as you have. They did have a problem. Well, what we did is we sat down at the budget committee and we were able to cut some things out, and I think it brought their share down a bit. But we didn't get the money from the surplus. And if we start every year giving money from the surplus, that's the only solution. That is like that's the Band-Aid solution from what I'm learning today. Once we can get our assessment corrected, we won't be in a position of having to ask money for the surplus.
The assessment is not the only basis for shares,
right.
Or for taxes for that matter.
Right.
It isn't.
No, it isn't. It isn't. I think the weighting is what also has to be looked at.
Jane, I would just like to clarify, the shares resolution that we had proposed to the MRC, where we said we would pay our shares on the true evaluation number, the 85%, as opposed to the 370. You said no at the last MRC meeting.
I think I said not tonight.
No, that was a different.
It was to me.
Yeah, it was to Isabel that you had said no. Yeah. Was that voted on by the council of mayors?
Okay. And I want to say to you, I read through this before coming up today, and I think that is a very, relevant point. That at your meeting that we had here, I think sort of forecast that every person wouldn't have a 370, and that it might be more like 85, which it was. So, I personally see your point that your share has been calculated on a number that doesn't apply. And the Council of Mayors have not had a chance to even discuss that. I think, unfortunately, that because Alleyn-Cawood, through your mayor, voted last year at this time on the budget, which included that 370%, then once the vote goes through, usually it doesn't change.
But Chichester voted at the same, 2 years ago, and you guys tried to do something to cut your budget down to save
It was
them.
a smaller amount.
It was but that's the thing, we have a big amount, so I think a lot more should be done on the MRC part in order to correct our shares, especially with the
Unfortunately, in the
new.
budget alone, we wouldn't be able to make it up, but.
As Julie said in her letter, and as Angela said though too, right? If it was a business and a consumer, I pay for my product, I leave the store, I pay. I get home and I see I was overcharged for a product, okay? Charged at an inflated price. I go back. The business, if it has any worth to it, would rectify that. The MRC is the same thing. We were charged in air, whether or not the budget was accepted in 2024 is null for that. We were charged in air. The air became apparent afterwards. So that should be corrected. That's bordering on criminal, it not being corrected.
In a way that we didn't have to pull the full amount from the surplus right now. Going forward, even our shares that were charged in 2025 could be adjusted to accommodate the overcharge in 2024. And, you know,
So we wouldn't pay anything.
so we wouldn't pay anything because our shares are what, 140 for 2025, and there was a difference.
289.
Yes, so that would, and then that wouldn't be taking from the surplus.
I know one mayor was thinking that with the Dreamy Estates, that eventually, you know, you'd be receiving higher taxes there, which would help make up for this spike. But I don't think that's unfortunately going to happen based on how the Dreamy Estates looks right now. And I will tell you, they are high on the radar of the Council of Mayors. And you know, I just think it is a terrible thing that an outside company can come in, buy up a lot of property, sell, flip all this land, and then say, like the sign in Renfrew County, do whatever you want. You can have a trailer there, you can have an old school bus, you don't even develop it. So the land, the money's been made, the valuation's gone up, but it's not going to continue to appreciate because
But that doesn't fix the issue at hand.
but I just have one question. I have one question, please, for you. Why did, when FQM came back to give us their thoughts on what happened at Alleyn-Cawood, why do they call this an anomaly? And how does that
It's
happen?
not an anomaly. It happens everywhere.
It
A
happens.
property is bought, subdivided, and
Yeah.
redeveloped,
Yeah.
right? But like I
That's
was
what we
mentioning, what is important to know from the FPM, why didn't you create a neighborhood that isolates this particular new development, so it doesn't affect the whole barrel of land all over the place?
Yay. Oh,
Having you
that's what
done
you meant about
that, you would have values that are 35,000 in the assessment roll, sold for 40, and you wouldn't have a 37% proportion median. I'm not saying that the FQM didn't do their job. I would like to know how they did their job. And if that was the case and they didn't isolate the new development, they should have. You wouldn't have the 37% had he done that.
This months ago.
I know.
We all knew, and we've been gaslit for 6 months on this.
This is right.
And ignored, and
Yes,
we
but to
defended
fix
it.
something, you have to, the first step, you know, in the journey is the first step. So you have to look at everything and start correcting.
There's more to it.
Just asking where I live instead of answering my question.
So why?
No. You know what? I want to tell you something. I've wanted to say this for a long time. I receive a lot of criticism. I value the criticism when it's constructive, but it's when it's just from people who don't like me.
That's not what it is.
Yes, it is. Then what can I say? I'm just here trying to do my job, and that's it. And I came here.
May I say something?
Hold on, let's
Yeah,
I'd like to talk about the other municipalities.
we're not here, first of all, we're not here for Jane, we're here to present our information and to present our budget, so we're not here, we're gonna keep that for Wednesday night, so we would like
The thing
to.
is that many municipalities did not understand the kind of knowledge that was given today.
Well-
Many of the mayors went ahead and gaslit other municipalities and didn't form a cohesive plan to deal with this. Shawville just folded, it took 100 and some thousand, they never even mentioned it to their taxpayers. So this is a widespread problem. people were gouged, and certain municipalities just didn't even understand the process and went ahead and just paid it. So there's all kinds of inequalities.
But that's their own problem. Us in Alleyn-Cawood, we decided not to pay it, and we decided to fight it and to educate ourselves and to educate anybody else that would that is seeing this problem. So that's the best we can do, but I just think that we should move on with our agenda and
Involvement.
exactly.
And I would just like to add to that too. We publicized this meeting everywhere throughout the Pontiac. We made it virtual. We put it in all of the Pontiac groups. Some of the onus is on the mayors from the other municipalities to come and attend, as Otter Lake has done.
There's only one here?
If they want to be educated, we provided the outlet for that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much hand-holding that can be done.
Exactly.
Is Tim Farragon here today?
No.
Is there any staff from the MRC?
And I would like to thank Otter Lake and Warden Kohler for attending today.
Because my municipality thinks that just only you have a problem, and I proved them that I have in mind my property was overvalued. My mother's property was was always also overvalued, and they said no, it's not our problem. The only you have problem, and they don't want to follow this group task 370 because this is not their problem also.
That's what we are experiencing. It's not my problem until it becomes my problem. And if you're going to be late to get on the train and not fight this, that's out of our hands.
You have to live with it.
Right? Like we can only give so much to so many. The onus is on them to come and learn and take the information.
And you did an excellent job, really. You have.
A question that was on the table earlier from what I understood the discussions to be, was whether or not there would be support for the council creating an opportunity in March, I believe it was, for property owners to come in and talk. I think based on what, and I no longer represent the George Lake Cottagers Association, I'm just a member, but I would think that there would be support from our neck of the woods, to use that phrase, our neighborhood, which I think is a neighborhood, to have that opportunity. If there's a small fee involved, then there's a small fee involved, but at least it gives you a sense as to whether or not it's worth an attempt.
It has to be constructive and it has to be fair.
And so I think that if council is considering that idea, I think there would be a lot of support for that from down our way.
Yes, we're still in discussion with the council about what's going to be the next step. We're in constant conversation with Shal. We know that Shal is going to be working with us to try and fix whatever evaluations that are not right. We spoke about fees. Now we're going to bring it to the council table to see how all the logistics are going to be. But of course, we're going to meet again probably in March, and then we'll have a more detailed plan. But it's not, the council will not let you guys off now. I think council has been showing their hard work into this. So we're going to continue, and yes, we hope to see you guys again in March. And until then, we'll have correspondence that's going to go out to explain exactly how the reevaluation process is going to work. So keep looking at our website and Facebook page, and the invite is also going to be there.
In case council needed some words in support of that approach, I'm just giving.
I wasn't going to speak again. I just wanted to say two things. We do always put our wood in the hot seat, and she's tough. She can handle it. But I'm shifting gears right now, and I'm like, it's time that those mayors are really held accountable.
Yes.
Okay, because they can do so much, right? I'm just saying, the mayors need to be accountable and help us. Like, we all need to be one team, which we're supposed to be, right? We're all the MRC Pontiac.
You cannot blame Jane for all the problems at the MRC. There's 18 other mayors.
No.
I don't think so.
No. But anyways, let's leave it at that. Okay, but why I came up here, I wanted to say a big thank you to Charles because
Yes.
myself
So much
personally,
information.
I have had, there's been more benefit to his speech and in the details he provided today. It's just opened up a door and I think we all feel the same way.
Exactly.
It's like 1,000% thank you. It's been just
In full circle, 1991, 2025. That's the point.
I just have another,
Go to the MRC Pontiac in January, as Jane has just agreed to explain to
Yes.
everybody who if maybe is not quite as comfortable with doing it online. So January, that will, we're a little bit late in December now, January will be a wonderful time.
Thank you. Yeah.
So this is finishing the first part of our public information session, so the speakers are done. Now we're going to move into the special meeting of council for the budget adoption. So we're going to have a little break of 5-10 minutes, and then we'll jump on to the next part.